Welcome to another edition of Whiskey Games and Nerd Stuff. Today's whiskey is Proper 12 Irish whiskey, except this time I mixed it with some ginger beer and some limes. And I'm just going to move this over here for now. And today's nerd thing game is a board game called Kitchen Rush. Let me go ahead and take a sip of this. Okay. Still not my favorite, but it's better. For those who've seen other videos, the Proper 12 Irish whiskey is not my favorite whiskey, but I must say I think it's slightly grown on me, so I don't know what that says about me from a whiskey lover perspective. But it definitely is much better with the ginger beer and the lime than it was straight. Today's game, it's a board game that I briefly talked about before. It's called Kitchen Rush. The premise of this game is you're running a restaurant, and then you're moving various pieces around to serve the meals. Normally, this is a 2 to 4 player game, but you can play it by yourself if you want. For the purpose of this particular playthrough, I'm going to use one of the play cards, and I'm going to pretend like it's 2 players represented by the red and the blue. Normally, each person would have their particular piece, and they would have their own play card with them. So what's going to happen on this is you see these little circles in here. As you are serving the restaurant, you're going to basically, you'll take an order. You will then get the plate it, cook it, serve it. So what we'll kind of do is a little bit of playthrough, and typically this game is timed. And they come in scenarios. So the first scenario is 4 minutes. So we'll go ahead and start now, and I'll try and keep around the 4 minutes from now. So the first thing that would happen is this player would come over and take the order. Once that player takes the order, this player then would come and get the dish. They would call back to order, so we would pick up this particular order, which is pizza margherita, which is a cheese and 2 breads. So what we do is first we need to get our ingredients, but we cannot move until this timer goes out. So we have to wait for these timers to go out before we can go get the ingredients to cook. So now that this one's going out, he's going to go and get his 2 pieces of bread. We will have this one go and get the cheese, and then we need to wait. And then usually what will happen is as you get along with further ones, you're going to have multiple pieces, so you'll be able to do multiple things. So we only want one person to cook at once. So what's going to happen is this person is going to go ahead and cook. He's going to start to cook. We're going to put the 2 pieces of pizza and the cheese on here. So while, oops, I forgot to turn it over. So while he's cooking, he's going to go and take another order. Because again, you've got 4 minutes that you're trying to do this in. Now what will happen is on these cooking pieces, see the number 2? That's 2 times that particular thing will need to cook. So basically what you'll need to do is cook 2 segments. And on these player cards, you're going to see it says 0, 1, and 2. So as soon as this gets flipped over, I'm going to go ahead and turn it to go to the second phase. This particular person is still taking the order, so he's done taking the order now. So now what's going to happen is he's going to make chicken stew with vegetables. So he's going to go ahead and go over here, get the plate that it shows on the game piece, get the plate ready, and he is going to get the 2 meat pieces that he needs. Okay, now that this has cooked its second time, you're then going to go serve the meal to the patron. And then you would get the points for that particular card. So this is a successfully served meal. Okay, now that this has got this piece, he is going to go and get the carrot. Okay. Oh, he is now taking the... So he served it. He is now going to go over here and get the carrot. Oh, sorry, he was already getting the carrot. So he went ahead and Now he's going to start cooking, phase 1. This person is going to go and get a second order, or sorry, I should say a third order to cook, which is going to be macaroni and cheese with bacon. Now, if you can imagine, you got 2 people here, they're each moving their pieces, and you can only be 1 piece at a time. So this is a really fun game, and when it gets to 4 players, it's kind of crazy because you're all trying to do stuff. So he went ahead and got his, so he's going to do, that was the first level of cooking. He's now working on his second level of cooking because the chicken with vegetables requires 2 levels of cooking. And this is done. He is going to go ahead and get the cheese. I don't know that we're going to have time to fix this because we are going to be short on our 4 minutes. So I'm just kind of eyeballing this with the timer on the clock. So looks like we just barely got succeeded in serving the 2 meals. So what would happen at this particular time, I'll call it 4 minutes. So when the timer goes off, what you're doing is you're looking at what meals you successfully cooked, and we would have done these 2. So the first scenario, you're kind of just serving friends and family, and then it goes on to where then you open up your restaurant, and then then you start collecting money. So, and that's what these symbols are down on here. So as the game progresses and the scenarios get harder, the meals get more complicated, you start collecting money, and then later on, as the restaurant expands, you have to start buying ingredients, you have to start doing dishes, you do repairs, and then if you don't do a meal in time, you have to refund the money, or if you forget an ingredient, you have to refund the money. So this was just a quick demo of the first scenario of Kitchen Rush. And I've played this game many, many, many times. And I feel like the sweet spot is 2 people. And then when you have 2 people, the later scenarios, you're each getting 2 of the timers for your color. So you can kind of do multiple things at once. But it definitely helps to plan ahead to say who's going to wash the dishes, who's going to go get the ingredients, who's going to take the order. And then I've noticed when you get to that 3 to 4 player, you would think the game would be easier, but because there's so many people and you're moving pieces around, this is one of those things where it's definitely, it's a lot about coordination and planning and working together. Let me go ahead and take another sip of this. This is definitely much, much better with the ginger beer with it. This is one of those games that I thought, you have those for people that do the team building exercises at their place of employment. I always thought this would be a fun team building game, especially when you get that 3 to 4 player level, because each specific person will, you can get together and plan out who is going to do, who's taking the orders, who's serving the orders, who's cooking the food, who's doing the dishes, who's getting the ingredients, who's buying the ingredients, and then later on you're adding spices. So I always thought this would be a good team building activity game, because at first it's one of those things where you'd have to kind of get together and plan out, okay, who's going to do what. You kind of map out your strategy for that particular scenario, kind of all agree as that group real quick, and then depending on the scenario, you might have 4 or 5 minutes to complete all those tasks. Well, what's interesting is what happens is you all talk about what you're going to do, and it's easy to quickly see how as soon as somebody forgets to do something or grabbing an ingredient, kind of how the power dynamics and the relationship dynamics change around the game. I've always thought this is an interesting game. I definitely enjoy it. This was just a very, very quick rundown of the first scenario. In future episodes, maybe I'll go ahead, if there's enough interest, I'll do one in scenario 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then when I get a chance, kind of have a couple, give some gameplay with showing multiple people play it. This is a 2 to 4 player game. It is Kitchen Rush from Pegasus Spiel. And it's an awesome game. I'll go ahead and put a link to their website in the chat. And then, if anybody's again, it's 2 to 4 players, but I've played this by myself a few times and had some fun with it. Do appreciate everybody who's took the time to listen to the video. If you've played this game and you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, comment. If you are a fan of the proper 12 and you mix it with something that's your preferred mix of choice, please make a comment as well. And until next time, cheers.